My boyfriend Blake and I work at the same tech company. We've been together for 3 years, living together for the last year and a half. Different teams, but we collaborate sometimes on projects. He's always talking about how we're a team and we have each other's backs. I thought that's what we had. Real partnership, the kind where you support each other no matter what. When he has crunch time, I stay late helping debug his code, even though I'm exhausted from my own work. When he gets overwhelmed with project timelines, I help him reorganize and prioritize. He always says how much stronger we are together, how lucky he is to have someone who really gets the tech world and can help him succeed. What happened today is making me wonder if I've been completely delusional about what our relationship actually is. We've been working on this massive software deployment for our biggest client, a major e-commerce platform that processes millions of transactions daily. This isn't just any client, this is the client that basically keeps our company afloat. Blake is the project lead. I've been heavily involved because the project touches both our areas of expertise. Everything was going smoothly for weeks. We'd have these late-night work sessions where we'd grab takeout and go through code together. He'd always joke about how we made the perfect team, him handling the big picture strategy and client relationships, me catching all the technical details he missed. I loved those moments because it felt like we really were partners in everything. But this past week, things got intense, the client kept changing requirements, the timeline got compressed, and Blake started getting really stressed. He's not great under pressure, tends to make careless mistakes when he's anxious. So, I stepped up even more, basically becoming his unofficial co-lead even though that's not my role. Monday through Wednesday, I was staying until midnight helping him restructure the entire deployment plan. Thursday, I spent my entire day testing configurations that should have been his responsibility. I didn't mind because that's what you do for someone you love, right? You help them succeed. Yesterday was when things really started falling apart. Blake was having a full panic attack about the configuration files. These files control how the entire system initializes. Get them wrong and everything crashes. By 6 p.m. yesterday, he was a complete mess. Pacing around the office, running his hands through his hair, talking about how his career would be over if anything went wrong. The deployment was scheduled for 9 a.m. today, and the client would be monitoring everything in real time. He begged me to stay late and review everything one more time. I felt bad for him. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. So I stayed until 2 a.m. going through every single configuration file line by line, found several issues that could have caused major problems, I fixed everything, and pushed the changes to our shared repository with detailed commit messages explaining what I'd corrected. Blake was so relieved. He kept thanking me, saying he didn't know what he'd do without me, said he'd do one final review this morning before deployment, and that after this project was done, we should take a vacation together to celebrate. I went home feeling good about helping him, feeling like we really were an unbeatable team. The deployment was scheduled for 9 a.m. this morning. I got to work around 8:30 and Blake was already there, looking nervous but more put together than yesterday. He said he'd done his final review and everything looked perfect. We grabbed coffee together and he seemed optimistic about the day. The deployment started right on time. For the first hour, everything looked great. System came online smoothly, initial tests were passing, client was happy. Blake was getting congratulatory messages from upper management. I felt proud of both of us. Then, at exactly 11:07 a.m., everything crashed. Not just a small glitch, complete system failure. The client's entire e-commerce platform went down during what was supposed to be their biggest promotional weekend of the year. We're talking about a site that processes millions in transactions every hour, completely offline. The alert started going off immediately. Blake turned pale and started frantically trying to diagnose what went wrong. Within minutes, our CTO was on the floor, along with the client's technical team joining by video conference. This was all hands on deck, code red, client threatening to sue kind of situation. M called an emergency meeting with Blake, me and our manager, and 3 people from the client's team on video. I was confused about why I was even included since Blake was the project lead, and this was his deployment. That's when everything went to hell. Our manager started the meeting by pulling up system logs and immediately started questioning me about my configuration changes. He kept saying things like, "The version you committed last night," and "Your modifications to the initialization sequence." I was sitting there wondering why everyone was looking at me instead of Blake. Then my manager asked directly, "Did you make configuration changes after the final review last night?" I looked at Blake, waiting for him to explain the situation, waiting for him to tell them that he'd asked me to help review and fix his configurations, that I had permission to make those changes, that he was supposed to review everything I did before deployment. Blake just sat there, silent, staring at his laptop screen. My manager asked again, more firmly this time. "The system logs show commits from your username at 1:47 a.m. Did you make unauthorized changes to production configuration files?" I kept waiting for Blake to speak up, to have my back like he always said he would, to explain that we worked as a team and he'd asked for my help. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 30 seconds, Blake finally spoke. "The commits do show her username on them." I felt like I'd been physically slapped. This person who tells me he loves me every day, who I've spent countless hours helping, who just last night was thanking me for saving his project, he was sitting there letting me take the blame for his mistake. I tried to speak up. Blake asked me to review the configurations. I found errors and fixed them. He was supposed to do a final check this morning before deployment. But my manager was already in full damage control mode. Regardless of who asked what, you should have known better than to make changes to production configurations hours before a major deployment without proper approval workflows. This is exactly why we have procedures. The client team was furious. One of them was talking about contract violations and potential litigation. Another was calculating lost revenue by the minute. They kept referring to the analyst who made unauthorized changes like I was some rogue employee who'd sabotaged them intentionally. Blake said nothing. Nothing to defend me, nothing to explain the real situation, nothing to take responsibility as the project lead. The meeting ended with David saying I was suspended immediately pending a full investigation. Blake was asked to lead the recovery efforts and work directly with the client to identify and fix the issues. As everyone was leaving the conference room, Blake actually had the nerve to reach for my hand and whisper, "Don't worry, we'll figure this out," like he was some supportive boyfriend instead of the person who'd just thrown me under the bus. I came straight home and he followed about an hour later. I was waiting for him, ready to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was in shock. Maybe he didn't know what to say in the moment. Maybe he'd explain everything now that we were alone. When I asked why he didn't speak up in the meeting, he got defensive immediately. "You could have explained the situation yourself if you wanted to. I can't contradict what the system logs show. Your username is on those commits." "But you asked me to make those changes." "I asked you to review the files. I didn't tell you to push changes without running them by me first." This is where I started to see his true colors. He was rewriting history in real time, acting like I'd gone rogue when he'd literally begged me to fix his configurations. "Blake, you were having a panic attack. You said you'd review everything this morning. I left detailed commit messages explaining every change I made." "Well, maybe if you'd been more careful with your fixes, we wouldn't be in this situation." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was actually suggesting this was my fault, that I'd somehow introduced the bugs that caused the crash. That's when I started remembering other times this had happened on a smaller scale. How every time something went wrong that we'd worked on together, somehow the blame ended up on me. Last month when we planned his friend's birthday party at this restaurant and they screwed up the reservation, Blake told everyone I'd probably given them the wrong date when I called to confirm. The truth was, he'd never even told me to call. I did it on my own initiative to make sure everything was perfect. A few weeks ago, when we were late to my company's holiday party, Blake told everyone, "Sorry, she takes forever to get ready," even though the real reason we were late was because he'd lost track of time in some online game and didn't start getting dressed until 20 minutes before we were supposed to leave. There was the time his project presentation had formatting issues, and he told our manager, I guess the template she edited had some problems, even though I'd spent hours making his slides look professional, and the issues came from last-minute changes he made without telling me. I noticed patterns in how he talks about our successes versus our failures. When things go well, it's always, "We did this," or "Our hard work paid off." When things go wrong, suddenly it's, "She didn't catch that," or "I probably should have double-checked her work." I confronted him about all of this tonight. He got angry and said I was being dramatic, that I was looking for problems where none existed. He said couples are supposed to support each other's careers, not create conflict over work issues. But how is this supporting each other? I got suspended because you wouldn't take responsibility for asking me to help. You're making this about blame when it should be about finding solutions. That's not very team-like. That word, team, hit me wrong. I've been hearing it for 3 years. We're a team. Teams support each other. We're stronger as a team. But apparently, being a team means I do extra work to help him succeed, and when things go wrong, I'm the one who faces consequences. He keeps saying things like, "Real partners don't attack each other during crises," and "I thought you understood that my career affects both our futures." Like, I'm supposed to just accept being suspended to protect his reputation. The more we talked, the more I realized how one-sided our teamwork has always been. I help him with his projects all the time, but when was the last time he stayed late to help me with mine? I cover for his mistakes and help him look good in front of management. But the moment something goes wrong, he distances himself from any responsibility. I've been replaying today's meeting over and over in my head. The look on his face when my manager asked who made the changes. He didn't look surprised or confused. He looked like he was calculating something. Like he was deciding whether to save himself or save me. And the choice was obvious. What kind of partner does that? What kind of person who claims to love you watches you get destroyed professionally and says nothing? I don't know what to do. Part of me keeps thinking maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe work stress is affecting my judgment. But another part of me feels like I'm seeing who he really is for the first time. I called my sister earlier and tried to explain what happened. She asked me point blank, if the situation was reversed and Blake got blamed for something you asked him to help with, would you have spoken up? The answer is obviously yes, without hesitation. I would have taken responsibility immediately. So why didn't he? I keep thinking about our future together. We've talked about getting engaged next year, moving to a bigger apartment, starting a family eventually. But how can I build a life with someone who'll sacrifice me to protect himself? Right now, I don't even know if I want to see him tomorrow morning. I don't know if I can look at him the same way after watching him sit silently while I got blamed for his mistakes. Has anyone else been through something like this, where someone you trusted completely showed you that their loyalty has limits? I feel like I'm questioning everything about our relationship, and I don't know if that's fair or if I'm just emotional because of work stress. The worst part is he seems genuinely confused about why I'm upset, like he expected me to just take it like a good team player and move on. But I don't understand how we're supposedly a team when the first sign of trouble, he leaves me to face it alone. TBH, I think I already know what I need to do. I think I've known since the moment he said the commits do show her username instead of standing up for me. But it's scary to think about ending a 3-year relationship, changing everything in my life, starting over. Part of me keeps hoping he'll realize what he did was wrong and apologize. Maybe explain that he panicked, that he'll make it right tomorrow. But it's been 12 hours and he's acting like I'm the unreasonable one for being upset. I guess I'm posting this to hear from people who've been in similar situations. Is this the kind of betrayal you can come back from? Can you rebuild trust after someone shows you they'll sacrifice you to save themselves? Or is this one of those moments that changes everything, that shows you who someone really is in a crisis? Because right now I feel like I don't even know the person I've been living with for 3 years, and I don't know if I want to.